think about it, Israel and Palestine?
I think
removing your journalistic hat, which I know that you have been very even
on
that.
A human level, I tell you what I think. I think that October the 7th is one of the worst things I've ever seen. I think the retribution, as I call it, by Israel has now gone way beyond what is acceptable. I take issue with people that want to frame it as genocide purely from a technical point of view, that actually the definition of genocide would mean that, if Israel had killed 1 million people, I could accept the argument this is a bonus.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into a moment between Candace Owens and Piers Morgan as they tackle the volatile situation in Gaza. Piers offers his honest take, but are we seeing the whole picture? Is the mainstream media's golden boy as unbiased as he claims? Or is he skirting around the hearts of Israel's devastating rampage in Gaza? Stick around as we pull apart the rhetoric and expose the uncomfortable truths that the world needs to hear.
A genocide. It's more complex for me as a journalist when I look at this and compare it to other genocides, and I compare it to other wars, that if you take the central argument of Israel, which is put aside everything that happened before, if you take the October the 7th and the scale of it, with 250 people being kidnapped, including babies and Holocaust survivors, with 3,000 people coming over the border, attacking indiscriminately people, killing 1,200 and wounding nearly 7,000 more. If you take the scale of what happened, Hamas knew what Israel was going to do by way of response. Hamas indisputably have buried themselves into civilian areas quite deliberately for self-protective reasons. And Israel has been, I don't think they've been anything but indiscriminate, actually, in a lot of their attacks on these areas, particularly on the refugee camps. I think it's completely unconscionable, some of the stuff they've done there. And I think that it's gone on way too long and it has to stop. And I think I always ask people throughout the debates, what is a proportionate response? I didn't have the answer. I didn't know what is the correct proportionate response to the scale of October the 7th. And that's before you factor in the background and the history and what people see as the occupation of the Palestinians and the appalling plight of 2 million Palestinians in Gaza for so long. It doesn't factor in that. It's just Hamas do this. What is the proportionate response that's acceptable? I think Israel's gone way beyond what is acceptable. However, I understand their argument that they are responding to, as they see it, a heinous terror attack, and they have vowed to get rid of the Hamas terrorists who did this, and that the only way to do that is to do it the way they're doing it. And I understand that that is their argument, and I understand that that to me is different to a country waging a wholesale genocide of a people. So I think it's complicated, and I don't have all the answers, but as we sit here now, this has to stop. The leveling of Gaza has gone completely out of control. I mean, a lot of Gaza is unoccupiable now. I think the aggressive expansion on the West Banks has been a form of terrorism, which is completely unacceptable. I think some of the language of some of the cabinet members has bordered on genocide.
Wait a sec. Did Piers call the aggressive expansion in West Bank a form of terrorism? A strong term, no doubt. But notice how he still hesitates to connect these actions to a broader accusation of genocide, even while acknowledging that some Israeli officials have used genocide rhetoric. This is where the narrative gets slippery. By framing it as isolated instances or the fault of some cabinet members, the focus shifts away from the systematic nature of these policies. This isn't just rogue language. It's reflective of a broader agenda that has displaced and dehumanized Palestinians for decades. And let's not forget, the ICJ is already investigating these actions as potential war crimes. So I ask you, is this critique bold enough, or is it carefully constructed to avoid fully calling out the atrocities? Say your thoughts below.
And I think that there are clearly some members of that Netanyahu cabinet who actually would have no problem if all the Palestinians left Gaza right now. And so I'm not saying that there's not a potential for a form of genocide to be here. We might look back at this in 2 years and you might say to me, well, we told you this is genocide, what they've done. They've got rid of all the Palestinians. That could happen. And I pray that doesn't happen. And I pray that, as I've always felt, the only way through this ultimately is fresh leadership on all sides, as we saw in Northern Ireland after many decades of horrific war between the IRA and the Loyalists, that ultimately they got to peace because leaders like Clinton and Blair and all these guys came together and they were just determined to get it. And they managed to get a peace now where people in Northern Ireland live in relative peace and safety, and they live amongst each other, people that used to be at war with each other. It would be amazing to think that could happen. But I think we're a long way off that there now. So that's my honest human
I think that was honest
view of it.
I have a good radar for honesty. I think you're being very honest, and I think it takes a lot, tremendous for you to even say it, because it's so strange to me that we've gotten to a point where people are too fearful to say that what's happening has gone too far because they're scared of losing their jobs.
Yeah.
And this really shows, and I mean, I call it Likud Party media in America. They have this sort of stranglehold on the media, and they sort of just will libel you and smear you and pretend that you're like a Nazi sympathizer, which gets really crazy. But what we are recognizing now, and you can sense their frustration, is that the media game has changed. Nobody cares anymore what they're writing. Nobody cares who they're smearing, who they're libeling. It actually, in many ways, when they do these sorts of attacks and when they're not based in reality, it helps the person. You know, like the person is given further belief, further credence, because people go, okay, well, they took all of these fire and all these bullets because they said something that was true and something that was humane.
No doubt, Candace, speaking the truth nowadays gets you in some serious deep waters, considering AIPAC has run and governed all mainstream media, and we stand up together to fight for humanity. The destruction in Gaza has reached unimaginable levels, with indiscriminate bombings and innocent lives lost under the guise of defense. Yet, even in the face of mounting evidence, the global stage dances around accountability. It's time to confront the biases, challenge the justifications, and demand answers for those with platforms like Piers Morgan and Candace. If you found this breakdown thought-provoking, hit like, share this video, and subscribe. Together, we'll continue to dissect the truth and amplify the voices that mainstream media silences. Until next time, stay vocal, stay informed, and never stop questioning.